Welcome to Connecticut Yankee Sanity. Starting with today's video, I'll comment on political and cultural topics from the perspective of an ordinary citizen born during FDR's last term in office. That is, a war baby who is now an old guy. The Connecticut Yankee handle in the context of my state's political environment may seem like a contradiction in terms, but hope springs eternal, so I'll let it stand. To give you a little background, my higher formal education consisted of conservatory training as a musician. My subsequent and inevitable day jobs were as a pencil pusher in various office capacities, before, by a lucky chance, I strayed into international business and publishing. For most of my life, I was either too busy working and raising a family to take an active interest in politics, or just not paying attention. That changed when the Clintons moved into the White House. The political and cultural trends since then have not been reassuring to me. My aim here is to provide perspective. My credentials consist of eyes, ears, and a functioning brain, which should suffice. Critical observation would best describe my style, with emphasis on the word critical. I'll present opinionated commentary, not breaking news. I'd like to say that I'll be unfailingly fair and balanced, but that's expecting a lot from an old New England crank. I'll do my best, but make no promises. As for my politics, I favor small government, low taxes, and being left the hell alone to live my life as I please, meanwhile recognizing my fellow citizens' right to do the same. In case you haven't guessed, I'm one of the handful of Connecticut residents who didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. Liberals may therefore find me annoying, if not downright insufferable. I'm sorry for that, but it's their problem, not mine. Viewer discretion is always an option. I anticipate uploading new material twice weekly. Thoughtful comments in response are welcome. To get started, we'll talk about Joe Biden. My take on him rests on a simple premise. The DNC thinks he can beat Donald Trump in 2020, or if not, that his campaign will still benefit them indirectly. Whether that's delusional, we won't question. We also won't rehash Mr. Biden's past plagiarism, borrowed speech lines, touchy-feely tendencies around women, or whether, as Barack Obama's VP, he was in on the shenanigans in the Oval Office now coming to light. In short, we won't debate his quality as a candidate. It isn't relevant to my contention that he's a pawn, a placeholder, and a sacrificial lamb all rolled into one. There's a good chance he knows it too. He hasn't been in politics all his life without learning how the game is played. Whatever the Democratic Party's past virtues, its leaders today might as well be Bolsheviks. That's what the pre-revolutionary members of the majority faction of the Russian Social Democratic Party called themselves before they came out of the closet and renamed themselves the Communist Party. The DNC, having abandoned its traditional base, has gone full Monty on socialism, with a ticket that includes open borders, reparations payments to the descendants of slaves, free education for everyone, and of course, free government-sponsored health care. The problem is that the rest of us, mainstream Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike, haven't gone full Monty along with them and never will. Doesn't matter. The DNC knows what's best, even if we don't. It's a question of how to make the medicine go down. 2 centuries ago, Edmund Burke famously declared that ambition can creep as well as soar, and I believe that's what the Democrats are up to with Uncle Joe. They're in creep mode. I also believe that the DNC doesn't give a tinker's damn about him as president for his own sake. He's merely expedient. They want Kamala Harris, or somebody like her, choosing the drapes and the furnishings for the Oval Office. The problem is that the political dynamic for the Democrats hasn't changed from when Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders was giving Hillary Clinton a run for her money in 2016 and had to be smacked down by Barack Obama. Socialism just isn't catching on. So the Dems need a candidate who will be palatable to their future victims, that is, business Democrats, big money donors, and what's left of the middle class. Biden is it. Running a more or less agreeable old white male with campaign experience and occasional flashes of feistiness is their best hope of positioning Harris for the great leap forward in 2024. Obviously, I'm assuming that Joe Biden, despite recent setbacks, will be the Democrats' nominee with her as his running mate. and I think that's a safe assumption at this point, which means she'd be it if Biden, after giving the Trumpster a thrashing, cashed in his presidential chips. Sorry to be so blunt, but I'm only describing what I think is brewing in the collective DNC noggin. Ever since Walter Mondale chose Geraldine Ferraro as his running mate in 1984 and lost by 525 to 13 in the Electoral College, the Democrats have been determined to put a woman in the Oval Office. They screwed up with Hillary Clinton, but learned their lesson. They need somebody more ethnic, somebody with less baggage, somebody more like Barack Obama with ovaries. If this observation seems in bad taste to some viewers, again, I apologize. But after all, Harris herself has made a point of her skin color and has hardly downplayed her gender or her lofty leftist ideals. Although the DNC knows that she's too radical for most voters, she nevertheless represents what the DNC sees as the party's future. They're counting on the electorate to be lulled by Biden's inoffensive image and not fret itself too much over Harris's. They just want to get her into the White House. Fate will take it from there. For a man like Mr. Biden, who has spent his life in politics and not without success, it must be gratifying to be called out of retirement to serve the party once more, even if it's to undertake a kamikaze mission. The odds are heavily against him, and not just because of whom he's up against. He's failed twice to win the party's nomination as its candidate for president, which historically is a knockout punch. Now it appears he'll make the cut, not because he's exciting presidential material, but by default. Ironically, the Democrats will nominate him on the basis of age, skin color, and gender as a stalking horse to get Harris into the White House as VP and heir apparent. It demonstrates the desperation and, yes, the deviousness of the party. It's not a feather in Mr. Biden's cap that he's going along with it. The stage is likely set for another Mondale moment, but the Democrats, as I mentioned, see even that as beneficial. True, they'll have to creep a bit longer, but meanwhile, Harris will have gotten visibility on the campaign trail in yoke with the old white guy. When they lose to Trump-Pence, it'll be Biden who caps off his career taking the blame, not her. The loss will be interpreted as proof that what he stood for is now passé, and that what we really need is what the Democrats have wanted all along, a socialist female in the Oval Office who can carry on the work begun by Barack Obama. There used to be a saying that if you want to know what the future of the country will look like, keep an eye on California. Everything, whether in business, innovation, technology, or politics, happens there first. And 5 years or so later, the rest of us catch on and catch up. Kamala Harris is a native Californian. She served as district attorney of San Francisco and as the state's attorney general. That's where her ideas were formed, that's where her experience was gained, and that's where her politics were on display. For me, it's significant that her efforts to reverse California's ongoing decline into third world status have not been conspicuous. We have to ask ourselves whether she's the vice president we'd want in an administration of a man who'd be 78 when he took office. Thanks for watching. Please hit subscribe, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here next time.